In 1861, workers in a German limestone quarry split open a slab of rock and found something that didn't make sense. It had feathers of a bird and a mouthful of reptile teeth, the skeleton of a small predator wearing wings. An animal like this would have been strange to find at any point, but turning up in 1861 made it almost unbelievable, because the scientific world was, at that exact moment in history, tearing itself apart over whether a creature like it could even exist. This is the story of Archaeopteryx. 2 years earlier, Darwin had published On the Origin of Species and proposed an idea that had horrified a lot of people. All life on Earth was connected. Species weren't fixed. They changed, slowly, across enormous stretches of time. That is the foundation of modern biology today. But in 1859, it was closer to a scandal. And his critics had a question ready. If one animal gradually became another, where were the in-between creatures? Where was the thing caught halfway with features of both past and present? They didn't exist, the critics said, and the gaps in the fossil record proved Darwin wrong. Then, a quarry in South Germany answered them. The first clue was a single feather pressed into a 150 million year old stone. On its own, nothing special, but a near complete skeleton soon turned up in the same late Jurassic limestone, and that one stopped people in their tracks. They called it Archaeopteryx, which means ancient wing. At first glance, it was clearly a bird. Feathers almost identical to a modern bird's, proper wings, a light and delicate skeleton which looked to be built to get off the ground and sustain flight. Then, they took a closer look and the bird theory fell apart. The mouth was full of sharp teeth. The tail wasn't really a tidy fan of feathers as you'd expect. It was, however, a long bony whip-like structure similar to that of a small dinosaur's. And tucked into each wing were fingers tipped with actual claws. Nothing alive today has any of that together. It was as if someone had taken a small meat-eating dinosaur and dressed it as a bird, which was exactly the creature Darwin's critics had sworn was impossible. A halfway animal, reptile and bird stitched into one body. Proving it was the hardest part. For more than a century, Archaeopteryx sat right in the middle of a fight. The first true bird or a dinosaur that had happened to have feathers. One fossil couldn't settle it. It was a single animal, frozen mid-sentence, and what scientists really needed was the rest of the story. In the 1990s, they got it. In northeastern China, in the rocks of Liaoning, paleontologists started pulling out fossil after fossil after fossil. These were unmistakably dinosaurs, long tails, teeth, clawed hands and feathers. Some had simple fuzzy down, others had complex feathers nearly identical to a flying bird's. Suddenly, Archaeopteryx wasn't a freak standing out on its own. It was one frame in a film that turned out to have hundreds. And the picture was hard to argue with. Birds hadn't appeared out of nowhere. They had evolved from a group of dinosaurs called theropods, the same broad family that gave us a Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus rex. Which leads to the fact that still catches people off guard. Every bird alive right now is technically a dinosaur. The pigeon on the pavement, the chicken on your plate, both survivors of a lineage that made it through an asteroid that killed nearly everything else 66 million years ago. Archaeopteryx didn't prove all that by itself, but it was the first solid piece of evidence pointing the way, and that's why it still matters more than 160 years later. Not because it was the first dinosaur or the biggest or even the scariest, but because of what it showed us. Evolution leaves a trail. Whole groups of animals don't just appear overnight fully formed. They change slowly over spans of time that we can barely conceive. And every now and then, if we're absurdly lucky, one of those changes gets caught in stone. A small feathered animal from Jurassic Germany stuck forever between what came before it and what came after, and one of the fossils that genuinely changed how we understand life on Earth. The future will no doubt hold many more discoveries that will reshape our understanding, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. If you enjoyed this little dive into Archaeopteryx, please consider giving the video a like, and let me know in the comments which modern day bird reminds you the most of dinosaurs. But until next time, stay curious.